So it's the 1st of December, and what we've been seeing is companies then rushing in to declare their end-year results, and since we need money then to go and start celebrating, declare dividends. If you're lucky, you belong to Safaricom, you've belonged to the likes of Equity, you've belonged to the likes of KCB. They've gone into the market for the entire of this year. And what they've done then, essentially after Q3 results that we've been seeing from majority of those quarters, they've been declaring dividends. So let me take you back to what happened just yesterday when Kaige, which is a power stock on the NSE, gave us the results. But I want to start like this though, so that you can have a conversation point around this particular one. Because if you look at the results that they gave us, and I'm talking about Kaige, you're going to say that indeed their profitability jumped, now wait for this, by a whopping 157%. They're closing the year at 4.7 billion. That is the year ended December. Now listen, but then they declared a dividend of 0.2 of a shilling. Or out of the 4.7 billion they made, they're only giving you 1.31 billion. Why? Because if you look at what they're saying, it's 33% down compared to the payout of the 0.3 shillings that they made, which amounted to 1.7 billion a year earlier. But they're not telling you the reason. No, they just declared it like that. So what is the reason? Kaige, could you tell us why your profitability is jumping by 157%, but then instead of giving us money to take us to the holiday, you decide, we're not going to give you that money. But then they're not the only ones. Since we are at it, let's talk about Kenya Re as well, that halved its payout last year to 0.1 per share, or a total of 280 million shilling, when its net income, now wait for this, it rose to 2.96 billion from 2.94 billion in 2020. But then you see, it's not in 2020 when the entire reason for not declaring dividends was the uncertain environment occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is 2022, 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. So Kenya Re and Kaige, why are you not giving us the money? Could you at least give us a reason? And still on it as well, since Kaige is declaring good profits, Kenya Power, no. You're still investing on it, you're not going to get dividends because they haven't started declaring dividends yet. So the likes of Ndini Nyoro have to wait to start earning something out of Kenya Power. Hopefully, you've tried to access the Hustler Fund. It is 1st December, you are told to try us from today. Have you got? What is your limit? Talk to us at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at KIAGE Simba. This is Look at Business, which starts officially right now. Let's begin like this then. Kenyans can finally breathe a sigh of relief for the first time in 9 months after inflation slowed down for the first time since March this year on the back of a drop in food and fuel prices. Data by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicates that consumer prices fell to an annual 9.5% in November from 9.6% the month before, as elevated inflation squeezed household budgets and demand for goods and services. Ian Ketani starts us off.
Annual inflation has been above the central bank's 7.5% ceiling since June, with October witnessing the highest at 9.6%, which is a level last seen in 2017 when severe drought drove up food costs. This latest drop in inflation follows the central bank's latest lending rate adjustment to fight the increase, a meeting that saw the basic lending rate adjusted upwards to 8.75%. From 8.25%, the third in 2022, and brings cumulative increases to 175 basis points this year, the highest in 7 years. According to the KNBS, consumers in the country spent more to buy food than a year ago, with November recording a 15.4% in food inflation, a margin drop from 15.8% a month earlier, with transport, which owes a key rate in the overall inflation, dropping slightly by 0.1% due to the overall reduction in prices of diesel and petrol. Yen Kitani, Lookuptv.
Now, a new report by food processor Unga Group Limited shows that the processor cut 117 jobs in the year ended June, with employees in the sales and distribution department among the leading in the chop. The report indicated that the company's workforce dropped to 283 in the review period compared to 400 the year before. The company saw its sales team affected the most, as it was chopped to 39 from 126, with the production department dropping to 103 from 134. Even as the cuts happened in these departments, the company hired under management and administration, with the number going up by 1 to 141. The company, while addressing reduced margins, avoided the impact of the staff costs as a result of the restructuring, putting the reduced margins on the increased competition and rising inflation that saw prices of raw materials shoot up in the period under review, with the managing director Joseph Shoge adding that packaged business and food had become more competitive with the entry of new players in the past few years, sparking heavy price wars. Unga saw its sales for the financial year 2021 rise by 1.2% to 18 billion shillings in the year ended December 2021, leading to the company reporting an operating loss of 502 million shillings from the 616.2 million a year earlier. Unga, however, saw its net profit grow to 311.3 million shillings from 293.4 million, benefiting from the one-time gain of 802.5 million shillings from the sale of its Enns Valley bakery business. Unga is the latest to disclose job cuts, joining companies that have trimmed their workforce in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, with nation media announcing planned staff reorganization in the company, which might see staff lose their jobs. For Lookup Business, Simba, Elijah Charles, KIAGE. Moving on, Zamara Group has kicked off discussions on the road to universal health coverage, with the aim of creating systems that focus on patients and data-driven solutions to improve primary health challenges. Stakeholders have been urged to build from the basic primary healthcare level in the journey to achieve universal healthcare coverage. Edwin John Mukora on that particular one.
With the government prioritizing on digitization of services healthcare, insurance have been urged to provide more affordable products that cater for the mass market by providing benefits under the universal healthcare coverage.
Amongst the greatest things that we are doing right now is digitization of, the healthcare. There are a number of things that are outlined within the government's manifesto, which we are operationalizing. Issues to do with local manufacturing, we have discussed that. That will really play, we'll really need the private sector in such engagements.
Speaking during the breakfast, the healthcare consulting lead at Zamara Actuaries, Samantha Ware, stressed on the need for an increased engagement at the grassroots level to aid in developing healthcare systems that best address the population needs.
So, right now 450 billion is being spent on healthcare in the country, and we're hoping that, we can make sure that we're moving towards spending that money more efficiently as we seek to provide individuals with the care that they need, right? Because healthier populations breed more productive populations, build economic activity, and so we can see ourselves grow further and further. I think it's interesting to hear the different voices in the room. We've had health tech companies in the room, we've had insurers in the room, we've had the regulators in the room. And it's good to see everyone's commitment and everyone's excitement towards this journey, and hopefully we can position Kenya even as thought leaders and share our knowledge as we learn on this in this process, that we can share our knowledge with other jurisdictions across borders.
UHC Secretary to the Ministry of Health, Dr. Elizabeth Wangia, also added that the journey to achieving universal healthcare is a significant component of the Vision 2030 sustainable goals, thus justifying the attention and participation of key stakeholders.
There's been a strong also push on primary healthcare, which is the driver for UHC, and we are seeing a lot of opportunities of the private sector, starting with coming up with solutions, for example, where patients are able even to take charge of their health.
Aiden John Mukora, Lookuptv.
Equity Bank has announced that the Central Bank of Kenya risk-based lending rate, approved by the Central Bank of Kenya, will officially kick off effective 24th November 2022. Now, the bank's risk-based lending model were among the first to be approved in Kenya. That will see their customers get loans on a 13 to 18.5% interest rate, depending on the risk profile. As of April this year, commercial banks had already been given the green light by the Central Bank of Kenya to roll out the risk-based pricing model for customer loans in the country. Equity Bank was among the first few banks to disclose what their interest rates would look like beyond the model's approval. This latest announcement by the lender means that some of the customers of the bank had already received loans based on their credit risk. The risk-based model looks to address financial inclusion in the country, where bankers will allow borrowers access to credit regardless of their credit risk, with those businesses and individuals with a lower credit risk awarded with fair interest rates. Equity, through a statement, has noted that the base interest rate shall be Equity's reference rate, which currently stands at 12.5%. It will be interesting to see the avenue other lenders take in the economy, especially after the Central Bank of Kenya adjusted the Central Bank of Kenya base lending rate to the current 8.75%. For Look at Business, Simba, Elijah Charles KIAGE. Moving on, electric vehicle taxi company Nopia Ride has announced that it is permanently exiting the Kenyan market after its majority shareholder and financier Ecorent declared insolvency in Finland. Infraco Africa Limited, which is the major shareholder, which is the minority shareholder, in Nopia Rights operator Ecorent Africa Limited, has filed for the liquidation of the company at the High Court of Kenya, with a hearing set for December 13th. Mukora returns with that story.
After 4 years of operating in Kenya, full electric taxi hailing company Nopia Ride has called off its operations in the country. In a statement on its website, Ecorent Africa, the main financier behind Nopia Ride, hit the wall, effectively putting an end to the first electric transport story in Kenya. In the statement, Nopia indicated that all its electric fleet has been taken off the road, further clarifying that all their clients and staff had been notified well in advance, with the only process remaining now being working with relevant authorities to ensure that its operations are wound up in accordance with local legislation. After 4 years of operations in the Kenyan space, with their business kicking off with only taxis, Nopia cruises with a fleet of 70 Nopia cars to its portfolio in the country. This latest development will act as a damper to the electric drive in the country, which has gained momentum with this week seeing electric vehicles company Basigo importing 15 electric buses into the country, with Kaige also launching 4 electric cars with a promise to develop an electric charging grid. Kenya Power is also in the process of testing charging stations in Nakuru and Nairobi. For Lookuptv Business, Aiden John Mukora.
Finally then, Old Mutual Life Assurance Kenya, in a collaboration with the Kenya Urban People Association, Cooper, has rolled out a new partnership aimed at empowering members of the clergy with key financial skills. The partnership seeks to address specific gaps among the clergy, which include inconsistent income, demand for better church infrastructure, clergy retirement benefits, and need for decent send-offs. Let's take a look at that.
Initially, we were doing funeral services, and we thought it was wise to work with Old Mutual so that they can bring the cash benefit to our clients. We have enrolled around 5,000 members on cash benefit. We call it food basket because it helps in reducing financial burden during funeral. We have done like 200 claims since we started this partnership.
We did launch our partnership with Cooper in November last year, and since then we have seen tremendous growth in terms of the distribution of our last expense product. As you may be aware, Cooper has a membership of over 30,000 individuals made up of people residing in both rural and urban areas. We have been able to sell to them insurance funeral covers to the tune of 90 million and over 150,000 lives covered in that span of 1 year.
We are also getting into this engagement to see how, as members of the clergy, we can have programs and projects that can be supported, that can be lifted by these two organizations. And also the other type of an engagement that we are doing, we want to see how we can have some structured development in our churches, in our organizations through this kind of partnership. And the other one is about preparing for death, because we have to prepare for death.
See what Senator Oledama Kina is saying. The Hustler Fund is going to create more poor people in Kenya than the current Shylocks that is trying to compete. Do you share the same sentiment? Would have been interesting to see them try and list the Hustler Fund on the NSC. Maybe that's where we're headed. But for now, let's take a look at the markets then and see exactly where we are in terms of how we closed yesterday. We've been asking where the money is, but not so many questions. We do know that as of 15th, we're going to close the markets. That means I will see you up until 15th, by the way. That's what it means. Because then what would I be talking about after 15th? Absolutely nothing. Anyway, let's take a look at the markets right now. We've seen exactly how you guys have already gone on holiday, definitely. But let's start from the biggest gainers. Express Limited again is coming back at it. For me, I'm usually happy when I see the likes of not a changed list, by the way, because this is exactly what we had as of close Wednesday, with Express coming in as the biggest gainer, 7.14%. We haven't seen the likes of Kaige appear here after the good profits that they gave us the other day. For her is at this as well. It won't make sense for us to talk about Uchumi. They're going to be below the 1 shilling for the foreseeable future. But that tells you exactly what it is. Every time they add a cent or so, then they would essentially jump into the top gainers list, whether you like it or not, because that's how the market is, isn't it? All right, now let's move on to the next one then. In terms of the indicators there, I would tell you that not so much really of surprise. It's going to be like that now probably until we close the year, where it's you retain status quo, because then it looks as if you guys have gone on holiday already, and since we are essentially ruled by foreign investors, you're going to see majority of that trading then to look like that until we close the market this year. Not so much of a surprise. Let's look at the next list, which is the biggest losers from yesterday. Probably I'll be checking exactly how we're doing right now, especially after we are 2 hours and 20 minutes into trading. I'll be telling you who's not in there. Now, here we have Crown Paints, and see, by the way, for me, it is the news here is NBV. NBV has been oscillating between it's completely been hard for them to break into the 4 shilling mark, because now they're again back to the biggest losers list at 3 shillings and 58 cents, a drop of negative 0.44. That's a percentage on their on that particular stock. Every time they go to 370, 380, and that is adding maybe 20 cents, 30 cents into their stock, they will come again back to the top 5 gainers list. But right now they're back to 358, and that means that they're in the biggest losers list. We do have CIAGE again 185. They're back on it again. Crown Paints, they should be around 35. So every time they lose 4 shillings or 2 shillings, then they come back into the big losers list. That list again will be like that for some time until we close the year. Now let's move on to where the money was. Because I can see, by the way, even on the biggest losers list right now, after 2 hours and 21 minutes of trading, Express Limited is there. Crown Paint is there as well, 31.75. So it hasn't changed so much. All right. In terms of the biggest movers, Safaricom again. But by the way, it goes like that. Now, KIAGE is here, not on the value of the profits that they gave us the other day, that saw 157% increase in their profits. No, they've been there for a long time. We don't expect for them to get out of this list. KPLC has been there this year, and it looks as if we're going to close the market with KPLC in there. And you cannot say it's because of Didi Nyoro anymore, because that's a story for 3 months ago. It looks as if the energy stocks on it, and I said, they've not been doing that bad. Maybe the news about KPLC is that they have completely been unable to break into the 2 shillings mark. They're oscillating around 170, 160, 180 being the biggest one this year. EABL, strong stock, you would expect them to be there. But KCB and Safaricom have been rolling for the past 2 days, because you can see Safaricom now is doing at 3.7 million, and KCB is coming in at 1.2 million. When you see Safaricom doing 3.7 million, KCB doing 1.2 million, then you will say, yeah, subdued trading, because when you're looking at the equity turnover across the board, you're going to really see that it has been on the downward trend. I was almost saying down low. That's not a business term, is it? Anyway, that's how it looks, and we do expect that probably it's going to be like that for quite some time. Now, we close this first part of our show. In the next segment, sorry, I'll be coming with a conversation on the effects of drought and how then we can move towards improving facilities around giving access to clean and improved water to 10,000 Kenyans in the next 2 years. I'll be telling you companies that are around that, and a conversation that is really pertinent, especially after concluding COP27. Once we come back right here on our Look Up Business, my name is Simba Charles KIAGE. You're still watching Look Up TV.